You blew me away in this film. I've loved your work for a long time, but this was something special. Oh, that means a lot. I really appreciate it. This movie centers on Bruce Springsteen, his music, his voice, his story. These are the songs he's personally connected to right now. How does it feel knowing that you've made Bruce Springsteen himself proud of your work? It's huge. Honestly, taking this role was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my career. I mean, I know how beloved Bruce is, and rightfully so. He's not just an artist. He's someone people feel an intimate connection with. Music does that. It reaches into you. People feel like they know Bruce personally because his lyrics touch something raw and human. So the idea of portraying that man, of stepping into his shoes, was terrifying. I was constantly aware that I could disappoint a lot of people. Bruce fans aren't casual. They care deeply. In the beginning, I was so wound up, so anxious about getting it wrong. Then, somewhere along the way, I realized that fear wasn't helping. It was useless energy. At some point, I had to take a breath and think, who was this man in 1981 and 1982? Who was Bruce Springsteen when he was making Nebraska? Strip away the legend for a moment and focus on the human being. That's where I found my way in, and Bruce actually gave me permission to do that. Tell me about that moment. When he first heard you sing his music, that was surreal. I'll never forget it. I got together with Dave Cobb, our music supervisor, in Nashville. We recorded at RCA Studio B, the same studio where Elvis recorded for Sun Records. That place has history in its walls. You can feel it. It was also one of Bruce's biggest inspirations while making Nebraska, so being there felt poetic. It was about 3 months before we started shooting. I remember being nervous, but also completely immersed. We laid down the tracks, and I tried not to overthink. I wasn't trying to be Bruce. I was trying to find my Bruce within the music. And then, Bruce listened. That's when it became real, he said. It sounds great. You sound like me, but not just like me. You made the song your own. And then he said something that stayed with me. That's how I want you to make this film your own. Don't just imitate me. Make the man your own. That was the moment I exhaled. Very early on, he gave me permission to bring my interpretation to the role to find Bruce, but through my own perspective, that trust meant everything. Did that take the pressure off, or did it make things even heavier, knowing he approved? A bit of both. It gave me freedom, but it also raised the bar. I thought, if Bruce trusts me, I can't let him down. But his words reminded me to stay honest, not to chase perfection, but authenticity. It's easy to idolize someone like Bruce Springsteen. But when you strip it back, he's a storyteller, a man who's wrestled with his own demons, doubts, and dreams. That's what I wanted to capture, not the icon, but the man. Were you able to relate to his story, to who he is at his core? Absolutely. That's the thing about Bruce. He's one of the greatest storytellers we have because he's so relatable. His songs carry the struggles, hopes, and heartbreaks of real people. You listen, and you feel like he's lived 1,000 lives, maybe even yours. I connect to that. Bruce is a man who's looked off the edge a few times emotionally, creatively, personally. I think I've done that too. That's where I found him. Honestly, in that moment when you're staring into the unknown, trying to figure out who you really are, that's the heartbeat of Nebraska. In the film, you can feel that tension, the quiet reckoning, the loneliness, the courage it takes to face your own reflection. How did you channel that emotionally? I tried to live in that stillness. Bruce's Nebraska isn't about spectacle. It's about isolation, honesty, and confronting what's inside you when the noise fades. So much of it is stripped down: the production, the arrangements, even the vocals. That simplicity is deceptive because it forces you to be raw. There's no hiding behind production tricks or theatrics. It's just the man, the microphone, and the truth. I worked closely with Dave Cobb to find that tone, to let the imperfections breathe. When I first heard the playback, I thought, okay, this is terrifying, but it's real. That's what Bruce does. He finds beauty in imperfection. When Bruce told me I sounded like him but not just like him, that was a gift. It meant I'd captured something truthful, not mimicry, but connection. Did you ever think about the fans, how they'd react to someone stepping into Bruce's voice? All the time. That was probably my biggest fear. You can't out-Bruce Bruce Springsteen, right? You just can't. But what I could do was respect the work. honor the emotion, and bring my own experience to it. I knew there would be people skeptical about the idea of anyone touching his songs. I get that. But this film isn't about impersonation. It's about understanding where he was emotionally during that time. The headspace, the heartache, the quiet revolution happening inside him in 1982. Bruce was processing fame, identity, and darkness. Nebraska was his rebellion against expectation. A whisper in a world that wanted him to shout. And that's what I connected to. Sometimes, stepping away from noise is the most powerful thing an artist can do. How did that influence your own process as an actor? It taught me restraint. It's easy to overperform when you're playing someone legendary. But Bruce's power comes from understatement. He's not trying to prove anything, he's just telling the truth. I learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. That's something I carried with me, not just in the film, but into my life. Were there moments during production where you felt Bruce's presence? Not literally, but spiritually? Absolutely. Especially in the studio. Recording where Elvis once stood, and where Bruce drew inspiration, there was this sense of lineage. Like music history was circling the room. There were nights when I'd finish a take, sit in silence and think, if Bruce could hear this, I hope he'd feel it. And then, when I finally heard his response, that he did hear it, that he did feel it, that was everything. That moment closed the loop for me. You can tell from the film that you weren't just acting, you were honoring something sacred. That's how it felt, I think. That's why Bruce's music endures, because it's rooted in truth. It's about flawed people doing their best to find grace. And as an actor, that's all you can ever hope to capture truth. When Bruce said, "You sound like me, but not just like me," he gave me a creative blessing. He gave me the space to tell his story through my heart. And that's rare. That kind of trust from a legend. It's something I'll carry with me forever. It's funny when you start a project like this, you think it's about the music. But somewhere along the way, it becomes about connection, to art, to fear, to the person behind the legend. Bruce Springsteen is more than an icon. He's a man who dared to look off the edge and put it into words. And if this film captures even a fraction of that courage, then I've done my job.